You are a piece of meat in a world of dogs. When my mother told me this a couple years ago, I quickly dismissed her comment, although it sat with me every day. I am now starting to understand that her whole idea of femininity was fundamentally ruled by fear. Fear of what the world has already produced, of what others would say in aims to ruin my reputation, and the treatment of women now and throughout history. But at Duxi, which is the Muslim equivalent of a Sunday school, I was learning the equality of all people. Contrary to popular belief, Islam does not oppress me. But there are others who will use the name of Islam to oppress people, especially women. In fact, Islam is one of the reasons why I am as confident as I am. Islam provided a definition of femininity that was rooted in education, in empowerment, and in love. Islam's ideals were in stark contrast to what's been given to me by both the media and by people around me. Although Islam's ideals are wonderful, the pervasive rape culture and misogyny that surrounds us erased whatever security I had built. My mother grew up thinking that if a man or a woman is a victim of sexual assault, that it is their shame to carry, that it should be something hidden, not seen, and not heard. So I can understand she did not know what to do with me when I came to her and confessed my own shame. In the beginning of 6th grade, I was raped and molested by a man who was very close in my family. He did it in the comfort of knowing that he had authority over me. He told me my mother wouldn't believe me and that he would hurt me, or worse, he would hurt my brother if I decided to tell anyone. And at 11, I believed him. After consistently taking advantage of me, I finally told a friend, who then told me to tell a guidance counselor, and eventually it went beyond the school. I remember my mother being completely distraught. She thought her children were going to be taken away from her. She knew her community was not going to support her, and she knew people would see and treat me differently. And as a woman who barely understood English and had no trust in authorities, whether it was police or social workers, I felt like my own trauma could wait. And by the end of 8th grade, I understood one thing: that I did not matter. This belief was rooted in the negative portrayal of Black women. It was rooted in how femininity was defined by patriarchy and racism. And because the person who took advantage of me was an older male, even though I couldn't articulate the power dynamic then, it completely took my ability to seek help. And this power dynamic exists because we do not take women seriously. It exists because we do not educate and protect girls and women. It exists because we train young girls to be caretakers instead of leaders. And in this power dynamic, we are merely just seen as sexual objects. I did not seek help because women were seen as weak, and because I was being taught different ways to avoid being raped and harassed instead of teaching boys not to rape and harass. Stigmas of survivors are extremely prevalent because those attitudes are applied in schools, in everyday conversations, and in the justice system, where aggressors are not held accountable and walk out free. And because of communities that create an environment where survivors can't even share their experience. I shouldn't be afraid to tell my story. nor should I have to adjust who I am to save a man's masculinity. Rape culture and misogyny in its most basic form is thinking or believing that you are not a part of the problem, when in reality we have all grown up in a society where women are demeaned and seen as less, and have acted on it, which even I myself am guilty of. So even if you think you aren't actively contributing, by being complicit, you are standing on the side of oppression and the erasure of humanity. Whether it is intentional or unintentional, you are contributing to not only my destruction, but our destruction as a whole. Ubuntu, I am as we are. We are all responsible for one another, which is why we all need a communal understanding of accountability and practice it, so someone in this nation is not being raped every 98 seconds. We need a communal understanding of bodily autonomy and respect this, so we all inherently know that my body is mine and only mine, and that consent can only be given and not taken. What happened to me is a reflection of our inability to protect humanity. And I've come to realize that since I can't expect any justice, that I can at least expect it from myself. Because I've learned the best justice is your own. Self-care has become my personal key to contentment. And what that means is not being in denial. Self-care is understanding trauma. It is understanding oppression and knowing that it exists, and understanding that I am never going to forget what it felt like to feel completely powerless and have a man shove all of the bad of the world into me. It is redefining womanhood for myself. And I do not need your pity, I need your activism. And activism looks different on all of us because we all have different amounts of power and privilege, but it all starts from within yourself. It starts with education, it starts with awareness, it starts with accountability for not only yourself, but for those around you. And I've come to realize that my own most profound activism is self-care. It is knowing and believing that my existence is resistance. And it is believing and declaring, I am proud, I am beautiful, I will not be ignored, I will not be erased. I am here, I am whole. I will speak out, and I matter. Thank you. Thank you.